The Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Road to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning, people. How are we doing? It's just me again. Chris is bowling. He is bowling the what's it called? The Budmore Players Championship, I believe is the name of it. So let's have a quick little look in on how he's doing this morning. It doesn't look like they're updating the results. Well, it's only got Chris through 3 games. He's 260 win, 211 loss, 170 loss. So not off to his best start. He's down in 16th right now. So we'll try and keep track of that as it goes. I've got my old glasses on. Still haven't found my regular glasses. But went on a Tuesday morning, got a new eye test. Ordered some new glasses, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll get those before the Lucy. I mean, my vision isn't exactly terrible in these; it's just not quite right. So, anyway, morning to all the people just joining us. Jeremy, he says, hello. What do you think about a service where you watch someone throw a few shots, then find a pack, check fit, and then recommend an arsenal and drill in for said bowling balls? I think you might be trolling me, and that's a pro shop. But yes, that is what's supposed to happen when you visit the pro shop. So, Nico, James, what's going on? Yep. Kirk, nice to see you. Kristen, hello. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it's like a week. If only it was that easy. If only it was that easy. I mean, it might be for Jane Sin. I practiced with her yesterday on the Lucy pattern. She pretty much hit the pocket every shot for an hour and a half, so that was kind of interesting. Yeah, Casey. Yeah, they just they do what they do. They get ahead, and then they just don't want to, go for the jugular, so to speak. So, anywho, I guess I could find something where we can have something written down. That would probably be a good idea, wouldn't it? I could have been more prepared for this show. Could have been. All right, let me just start a spreadsheet. Do you guys have any other questions? What's been going on? Liz Johnson is doing well. Was I a fan of the altered reality? It was okay. It wasn't great. It was okay. I felt like it was really specific. So yeah. Let me just finish this off. Right. God damn. All right. If I put it over here, this will make it a little easier. Yeah. All right. So I am going to share this screen, and we can maybe. There we go. All right. So it was no reality strike. Yeah, that's true. That proves you to be an OG. Yeah, I mean, Ryan's got a busy schedule. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Calm down. Yes. Yep, you can do it. High. And the Ion Pro is 100% not my benchmark ball. 100% not. Yeah. Not a benchmark ball for me. I do like it, but it's not the benchmark ball. All right, so the first ball in my arsenal at the minute is my favorite. So we'll get the coil in. It is. We're not going to go into too in depth in like how how shiny, but we have on this one we have a long pin. By I think it's 4.5 by 3. So that's my favorite ball, and then the other one that I'm gonna add into this mix is this. I probably should make this text a little smaller. Let's make it a little small so you can all. Oh God, I am such an idiot. This is the problem when you got it up on 2 places. I was changing it on the show. So anyway, and then I'm gonna go dull with this one, and then it's the same. So they're the first 2 balls in my arsenal always at the minute. Yeah, I can do that, but obviously not right at this minute. Yeah, we can talk a little bit. If you go back to last week's show, we had Tina on. We spoke about a few of the balls that she likes. Yeah, I'm good. We spoke about a few of the balls she likes, and she liked the Reality was what she shot 300 with. That's a pretty big favorite of hers. And then she really likes the Hustles, the DNA coil. I've just drilled an Ion Pro, but we bowled on Scorpion this week, so it's hard to know just yet whether that's going to be the one or not. But yeah, interesting. Mike, in looking into the numbers, assuming the coverage is the same, what numbers would be considered angular and smooth? See, I don't think you can really look at the numbers as angular because, for example, let's use God, which ball would it be? Let's use that. What was the green high road? Remember that green high road max? So the high road max had 257.045. The high road and the high road pearl are both super angular. But with that cover, it's not angular at all. It was super smooth. So it's hard to look at the diffs and make the ball angular. The cover has way more to do, to me anyway, with whether the ball is angular or not. This would be, I guess, assuming that it was a really quick cover, what would make it more angular? Well, it depends on the lane conditions then. So I've had like my phase 4, which is a low RG high diff ball, which theoretically would be quite smooth. The phase 4 was pretty angular. So it's really hard. In general, people think that higher RG balls are more angular. If you have a little less flare, that's going to be more angular if the ball will pick up. But it's way more complicated than that. So yeah, just to start with anyway. So anyway, we've got these two in the bag. We have an Ion Pro. This is like, I've got this extra dull actually, because I feel like the Ion Pro isn't really strong enough to have the cover as shiny as it is. So that's been five. Yeah. You were talking about zero pin buffers. I don't really like the zero pin buffers because I think they're a little. The problem with it is, if my hand's a little different, then the difference between a 1-inch pin buffer and a -1, like if my val moves because my PAP's moved a little bit, I feel like it makes it a little bit inconsistent. It's a bit like drilling like anything less than a 1.5-inch pin to PAP. It can be quite dangerous because a little move in your release can make a pretty big difference. Yeah. Was E-Trax Pearl? Yes and no. If I'm remembering rightly, the Halo Pearl was one of the fastest balls I've ever thrown. I'm pretty sure that has E-Trax Pearl on it. That ball transitioned really, really quickly. But I'm not very good at the Rotogrip cover names, which is really bad. But I think E-Trax Pearl was also on the Idle Pearl, and for me, the Idle Pearl wasn't that quick. So it's another one of your favorite. It depends. Okay, so we're still building this up. I'm gonna drill myself a phase 2. It's gonna be just the box finish, and that's gonna be a 5.5 by. I mean, it doesn't really matter for this angle, but and then it's 2.5. So we started to build it up. These are kind of the staples in my bag. And now we're gonna have to try and like add things around it. So let me just see. Raymond, thanks for the super chat. He says, bowling on the 2024 LBC pattern this week. What was the best pattern of attack for this? 2 hands, 400 RPM, 60 miles an hour on the monitor. For me at the LBC, I don't know how much of it was the pattern and how much of it was the bowling center, but I think the key for me was to get the ball actually to pick up. I felt like it was really easy to ring 10 when the ball got too far down the lane. The pattern itself forced me to play a little further right than I expected on something that had that much ratio. So I would think about kind of a medium ball. I mean, I use the XL and the Ion Pro back and forth trying to figure out which was the best look in practice. And I was playing probably like 13 to about 5. If I moved further left, the ball actually didn't pick up as much as as much as I expected it to. So I had my best look kind of playing just left of second arrow. Not huge amounts of angle through the front. And yeah, the thing that was quite remarkable was how quickly the lanes changed. So keep an eye out for that. I think that smoother reactions are going to blend out the wet dry. Nobody I saw was really using super shiny, angular balls on that. So yeah. He says, what is your opinion on my bag right now? Not bad. Like, I mean, with 3 balls, it's always going to be a little bit incomplete. I think the clone and the DNA coil are maybe a little bit too close together, but yeah, not bad. David, love my iron, but struggling a little bit with it. I have it at box finish and at 3,000. Is it better with more service? Absolutely. I think with it being that less diff and everything else, I just think that it's much better if you have more surface on it. I've really liked it when I've hit it with like 1,000, or I actually use Scotch Brite. So Amazon actually sell rolls of Scotch-Brite that you can cut, and it's way cheaper than buying it from Home Depot. It seems to last pretty well as well. So I've been using that, and for me, Iron Pro was night and day better once I added a little more surface to it. Um, have a question, but not sure how to word it to make sense. So I'll donate until I'm smart enough to ask. Um, well, thank you, but like, let's just write down what you're saying, and I might be able to translate what you mean in any way. So, at least it'll start off a conversation, and the community seems to be quite happy to come in and try and help you out. So, get it down, and we'll try and figure out what you'd looking to solve. But I appreciate the donation. That was very kind. All right. So we've got these. Um, I'm really bad at remembering all of the bowling balls right now because I'm old. But here is my new sneaky one. This is like the key to it all, I think. The attention star. Oh my God, I'm so idiot. The attention star, and it's got the same layout as this. The attention star is like a totally different ball for me once I added the surface to it. It's incredible how much better it is for me with the surface. It continues all the way around, and like it's just like it's a totally new ball for me now. I have to like try and figure out where it's going to fit with the absolute power and the DNA coil, because it's almost causing those two balls to be a little bit closer together. I think the attention star now is actually a little earlier than the absolute power. Another ball that I like that I'm gonna not absolute power. Why am I'm so bad at typing. I mean, at the absolute, it's shiny. I'm gonna do this one 5.5 by 4 by 3. Okay, so we've got all of our like pin-up asymmetrical stronger balls. I've got the Hustle RIP, and I've got the IQ Tour. Now this is, I mean, it doesn't. This second number doesn't really matter. And then my IQ Tour is dull. This is also a 4.5-inch pin by 4 by 2. Okay, so like you can see, most of these balls for me are kind of smoother pieces. This is kind of I really, really like it when I can make the ball continue down the lane. Kind of one motion. I think that's what works really well on tougher conditions. Having bowled on the Lucy pattern, where we bowled yesterday, it was a little softer than I kind of remembered, and it wasn't really that much different to last year's pattern. So I think we got a bit of a false read yesterday. I'm going to try and lay it down in a different bowling center later this week. But anywho, we have a few more to add to this. The Eternity Pie is just one of those balls for me that I think it could be okay. But I just prefer like absolute power, DNA coil. Like there's only so much room for those balls, to fit in the arsenal. So I don't really use the Eternity Pie. Yeah, I use like probably like 80% pin-up balls. I do have pin down coils, pin down absolute power. I will only use pin down layouts on asymmetrical balls. I won't use pin down layouts on symmetrical balls. I can't get them to flare enough. Yeah. Yeah. It's just really difficult. Stuart, wow, thank you. Amazing. He said, I averaged 189 at the Euro Challenge. 98% of the field had multiple purple hammers on the rack. I was the only two-hander in reactive. Should have been higher, but my spare shooting was very poor. Currently sitting 131 out of 176, bowling again on Saturday. Yeah, you are definitely gonna have to figure out the urethane thing for Europe. Europe right now is just dominated by two-handers and or urethane. Well, two-handers with urethane or one-handers with urethane or two-handers throwing backup balls with urethane or lefties, all of which throw in urethane. It's incredible how much it's changed. I appreciate you following the show. Thanks again for the donation. We like I say, it makes this a lot easier to be able to do these things. We appreciate you. I'm glad that you are finding some use from it. Good luck on Saturday. Say hello to Dom. He's going to be bowling. So yeah. It is, the European tour is a very rough place. For your spare shooting on Saturday, do me a favor. When you go up to shoot the spare, as you go up to shoot it, just take a deep breath. Just slow down a little bit. Spare shooting, it's one of those things that if you rush, you always miss. Like, just the thing that makes spare shooting so difficult is that you're frustrated from not striking, and like spare shooting is like a test of patience. So I'm not saying that's why you missed them or whatever else. I'm just saying that can cause a lot of trouble if you rush. So thanks again. Good luck. Let us know how you get on. We'll be hoping for better over the weekend. So good luck. Get some surface on your pitch black. All right. A few people are asking me about the original gem. I don't really use that ball very often because I just don't feel like there's ever enough oil on the lane for me to be able to use that ball. We've bowled over at Copperfield quite a few years now. For me, anyway, super strong balls have never really been the go over there. The front part of the lane kind of burns up. We kind of bowl on a fairly medium pattern anyway. And with them having to do a pattern for the ladies and the guys to bowl on at the same time, they don't tend to like put tons of oil on the lane. So yeah. Matt, what difference does pin up versus pin down make? Well, I've actually got a video on my Instagram about this that shows it, but principally, the pin down balls just make a longer transition from the point at which they want to start hooking to once they finish hooking. So sometimes that will make it look like there's more back end because the pin down balls don't respond to the friction as quickly. So if the friction is further down the lane, like there's more oil in the front, the pin-up ball will look like it's more angular. If the friction is closer to you, i.e. you're bowling on the burn, sometimes you'll actually find that the pin down ball will actually look a little more angular because the pin-up ball will transition so much faster as soon as it hits the friction. So that's why you see a lot of pros when they're bowling on those burn squads. You think that they should be using the balls that skid the most. But the problem is, if there's no oil there, all the balls that skid a lot do is be super responsive to the dry. Well, if the dry part of the lane is really close to you, i.e. the fronts are really burnt up, then it's going to react immediately. It's actually going to hook earlier than, say, like in your mind, because it's going to hook and stop. So that's the big difference for me. I maybe explained it better in the video that I have up, but yeah, that's would there ever be a case where you would use a 3.5-inch pin layout? No. The only balls that I would consider doing that with are something. I mean, I just wouldn't. Like four is probably the strongest I'd go. Pin to pap. But like Lightning Blackout, maybe IQ Tour, they were the balls that I'd use shorter pins on. So anyway, another ball that I have that I'd sort of a little bit forgotten to put in is the XL. This is dull. I think I've got this at 5.5. I think that's the layout for the XL. The for me anyway, the XL is a little bit more rounded in the transition than the Absolute Power. So the Absolute Power tends to stand up a little harder. The XL is a little bit more continuous. So anyway, I'm going to quickly run down the website so I'm not forgetting any that I'm going to add into my arsenal. Funny you should say that, Scott. I was actually playing around with the Optimum Idol yesterday, going a little straighter. It did actually look pretty good on that pattern. I just end up using the Ion Pro or the Phase 2 more. So I think that the Optimum Idol will be a just-in-case ball. I don't necessarily think it's going to be like one of the balls I take out to practice at the Lucy, but you never know. Yes, I will definitely have a spare ball. I actually have to drill a new striking against breast cancer spare ball this week. So I've got that in the car. I need to get it on the press. One ball that I don't use very often. I think I've got this with a 5-inch pin. I've got a 5.5-inch pin, 4.5-inch buffer, and a 3.5. 4.5-inch mass bias, 3.5-inch buffer. Yeah, it's the Vibo. I really want to love the Vibo. I just don't get as many strikes out of it as I'd like to. Oh, sorry, just hold the press. 3Gs, Bs. All right. We've got the Gem, the Nova, the Speed, the Venom Shock, the Exponent, the Radioactive Vibe, the Black Chaos, and the Spare Ball. Gem I love, but it burns up too quickly on 42 house shot, ratio 7-1. No good looks with the Nova or the Speed. Okay, well, what do you use? Shock is the best, but with Surface doesn't last long, and Exponent only good for one game. So to me, all of these balls that you've got in your arsenal are what I would put in the smoother category. I would look towards something like the DNA Coil or the Attention Star or the Vibo. I think that any one of those three balls will give you something that's a little more angular. I would probably, the Attention Star would be the one I'd use third. So yeah, the Attention Star would be the third option of those. I would look at a DNA Coil or a Vibo, something that's a little stronger, a little bit more ball than the Venom Shock, but way cleaner. The Gem, the Nova, the Speed, the Exponent, these are all really smooth balls. So the thing that's making me think you just need something that's going to clear that front part of the lane a little bit and give you something different shape-wise. So I would look to one of those balls, something that's a stronger asymmetrical ball that's a little quicker. I'm sure that the other companies have a million other options. Black Widow 2.0 might be an option. I can't keep up with Brunswick to know which ones are which. I haven't been with Dom in the car for a month and a half, so I've kind of lost track of which one of their balls are the ones that people are liking and not liking. But from the Storm side, a Vibo or a DNA Coil, I think, would make a lot of sense to help you out there. 161 first game, 273 second, and back down to 183. Well, that's a little rough. So, what happens if you just started with the exponent? So we'll see. Another ball that you could consider, if you wanted to go like symmetrical, if you're liking that, the exponent, you could go with a lightning blackout also. That would be below the exponent, but it'd be cleaner, that symmetrical look. So, hope that helps. Adam, thanks for the update. He says Barnes is 3-3 in match play. Let's see if the standings are updating for me. So Barnes is hanging out in 16th after 5 games. They haven't updated for 6 yet. He is getting gapped by Liz Johnson. Liz Johnson is 250 ahead of Chris right now. So a lot of games left, but that's a lot of pins. The top 5 right now after 5 is at plus 678. Chris is at 571, so that's still pretty doable. Liz Johnson, John Janowicz, John Rakowski, Mika, Brian Leclerc, Dan Knowlton. So pretty good field at the top that Chris has got to chase down. Friend of the show, Austinite, Brian Poga. A little bit of a roller coaster today. He's got 68, 268, 239, 169, 158, 277. I'm seeing a lot of that. Mika was kind of like that. 190, 260, 190, 270. So, yeah, interesting. But anyway, let's get back to the Arsenal. Let's see. What else did I get in this Arsenal? Let me flick over to road grip. Yeah, I think I've got all of the rotor grip balls that I'm going to get. Global. Okay, so I'm going to throw in my exponent pearl is going to be make the trip. That is a 5 by who cares? And then it's like 2. So these are kind of the balls that I'm going to build around. I'm going to have a DNA coil shiny, and then that one's going to be 5 by 4.5 by, I think it's 4.5. I'm not sure on the on that last number, but it's pinned below the ring finger. And then I have an absolute power the same way. Dull. And then depending on what the lanes end up doing, I might have an absolute power shiny also. And then for those, so that's kind of where I'm gonna that's kind of like what I kind of like right now. What's that, like 14 or 15? Yeah, that's like 14 balls. That's kind of like where I'm at right now. A couple of people have mentioned the Optimum Idol. Yeah, I've got one. It's probably going to be one of the balls I leave in the car. I have a few other balls. I mean, Harsh Reality Pearl is an option, but for me, the Harsh Reality Pearl looks better on kind of longer patterns. This 42-foot pattern is not really what I envision using that for. I've definitely got to drill a few balls today to start to get it ready, because we've also got the trip to Jonesboro straight after the Lucy. If you were forced to put either Lightning Bracket or Ruby in your bag, which one would you pick? Ooh. Probably the Blackout, just because I think the ruby is like, if I only had 6 balls, it would be the ruby. But if I had like this 15 ball arsenal, it'd be the lightning blackout. Because I think for me, the lightning blackout is better at one thing. It's just not very versatile for me. Whereas the ruby, I think I can almost always find something better than the ruby. But I think it's in play more times. I hope that makes sense. It does to me in my mind, but I'm not 100% sure it does to everybody else. So the ruby is a bit more of a all-rounder. It's just not my favorite all-rounder. Whereas I think the lightning blackout is much more of a specific use case. But when that specific use case is there, it's really good. I wouldn't classify it as. It'd probably be right in the medium category. It's definitely not like slow, like a gem or like a phase 2. Like it's kind of like in that phase 2. It's slower than the absolute power. For me, I think the absolute power stands up a little harder. So the slow and fast is one of the most how can you put it? Misdiagnosed things, I feel like. Everybody has a different view of what makes it slow or fast. So will the Ion Pro get the most use this year out of the new stuff? I think the Ion Pro is going to get a lot of use actually at the Lucy. I think with the way the lane surface is there, and with it being a new ball, I think you're going to see quite a few of those go down the lane. For me, the Ion Pro isn't in my arsenal. The Ion Pro isn't a benchmark ball. It's a ball that's super useful because it doesn't react like the other balls we have in the range. So a benchmark ball for me tells me what the whole of my arsenal does. The Ion Pro doesn't do that for me. But what the Ion Pro does do is it gives me an option of something that reacts, that has a different motion from the typical balls that I have in my arsenal. So that for me is that's almost more useful to me than a benchmark ball. So yeah, when I first got the Ion Pro, I was a bit meh, but the more and more I've used it, the more and more I really like it. It's just for me, it's like a step up. It's like a more modern IQ Tour. It's not really. It isn't very close for me anyway to the phase 2. It's much closer to the IQ Tour. So yeah. So this is kind of what I'm going to go with. I'm probably going to mix in a couple of other options. I'm just not 100% sure what they are yet. Let's quickly spin back to Storm, see if I'm missing anything on there. I mean, I'm obviously going to take a urethane ball. I just don't envision me using one. So I'll take the urethane with me. Yeah, I think that is about it. So does anybody have any more questions? Or are you guys all too into watching the golf? Tiger's out on the course. We don't have as many people viewing. Maybe that's what it is. It feels like to me there are too many variables unique to the bowler, and specifically how they have the ball drilled to say which balls are better and which to recommend. I mean, yes and no. Yeah. We tend to recommend balls based on the balls that they already have. So where you have a gap, that's how you would determine where it would fit best for a player. This was kind of like one of those exercises today that was more about just my process of how I got there. Chris has a much more regimented process with his. I mean, we've spoken about it a lot. It's a much more easy way to help other people. This is just what I'm looking at and what I'm going to take. Chris talks about, strong, medium, weak. and then he has smooth and angular for each of those categories. That's the kind of way Chris does it. I kind of just, these are just the balls I like and the balls I want to use and the ones that fill most of the gaps that I have. You'll notice there's a lot of asymmetrical balls. We bowl with the PBA and a lot of oil gets down the lane. And I don't have a very high rev rate relative to the field. So, yeah. Hey, Joe. This is a pretty easy one. The Iron Pro is by far the weaker. Summit is definitely the stronger ball by far. Like for me, the Summit is stronger than the Phase 2. So it would go Summit, Phase 2, Ion, and then the IQ Tour in that order. I look at the balls pros are still using months after they've been released. Yeah. And that's a fair way to do it. 100%. Oh, you're welcome. No worries, Joe. I mean, to me, some of the times they like you look at the balls that have been super popular that get discontinued and try and pick some of those up. There is a lot to be said for letting the pros and the people in your area that get the balls for free, let them do the testing. You know, I don't think you're missing necessarily or always missing out if you haven't got the newest ball. Having the balls that are working the best. Chris says it all the time. Having access to the new balls is a blessing and a curse sometimes because nobody knows what they're going to do. To be honest, I've tried almost every layout I could imagine on an attention star, and I was playing around with it a few days ago, and I was kind of doing a project for myself, trying to figure out like where the balls fit and everything, and I just ended up putting more surface on it, and then suddenly it opened my eyes to a totally different reaction, and it was way better. So this layout is one of my kind of standard layouts. I was kind of more of a 5.5 guy, but since they went to the AI cores on the asymmetrical balls, I've tended to go a little bit weaker to that 5 3/4 inch pin because the AI makes them flare a little bit more. So kind of that it's less nichey now. I still think that I like it when I'm going a little bit straighter through the front part of the lane. I think if I get super separated, I think there are better options for me. Mean Boy 2000. Thank you. He said, front six, first game of singles at Nationals and lost my action with the coil down lane. Sorry, with coil down pin. Up a better choice. 1500 surface on the left. I mean, it could have been. I mean, it's hard to say with that information. I just think that for me, the DNA coil is when it's great, it's amazing. And I think that it goes from amazing to not very good very quickly, if that makes sense. So having the balls to change ball, like for me at Nationals, if I could go back to the fourth frame of singles, in the perfect world, I'd have had my shiny absolute power with the same layout, and I'd have gone back to that. So on the tour this season, I've been going dull absolute power, shiny DNA coil, and then when that DNA coil starts to get a little lazy down the lane, rather than trying to manipulate it, which I find it very difficult to do with that, I then go back to a shiny absolute power, and that fits the gap really nicely. It's more of it's the R2S cover on the absolute power. So once you have that shiny, it becomes that bit cleaner than the DNA coil. So maybe a different ball would have been the choice there. Yeah. 3Gs. He says, when starting a tournament league without practice day, just 10 mins, how do you decide what ball to start with and how strong? Well, assuming that we're all getting there blind, so it's like the first squad of the tournament, nobody else is bowled. if I've never been to the bowling center, what I'm really trying to do is, in my mind, when I'm bowling, obviously you'll have an idea. Like most of the time, you're gonna have an idea of what the pattern is. But if you don't, just in general, like I think that a good test of your practice is after you finish practice, you should be able to take like a pencil on a piece of paper and draw out where you think the outer bounds is, where you think like your break point should be, where the oil starts in the middle of the pattern, where the friction is. And if you can't do that, then you didn't use your practice effectively. The key for me with bowling is always knowing where the bump is in the pattern, so to speak. So, like, if you're bowling on a flat pattern, there's obviously going to be way less of an obvious spot, and you're always going to try the track first to see if that area around second and third arrow is kind of like very dominant, and then you can figure out how far left or how far right you need to be if that to play with it. But in general, I want to know where the friction is, how far right I can get the ball and it'll come back from. And that's when you have like your benchmark pieces. So that's that's kind of the key to the practice session. It's the 10 minutes of practice is really trying to figure out, the 2 or 3 balls. So in my mind anyway, I don't think that starting with the strongest ball I own is a very smart idea, because if it doesn't hook, I don't 100% know if it's burning up or if it just doesn't hook because there's so much oil there. So that's the key to creating a good arsenal, is having those balls that give you a read by just throwing them a couple of times. Hey Jeff, well, glad to hear that you're making your way back. I have no idea whether you need to. I don't think it would be super detrimental to you if you did. Maybe try one and see how it goes. Pick an Ion Pro, or just one of the. If you pick one of the AI core balls in 14, the numbers will be very similar. I mean, the other thing you can do is find. I don't know what balls you have now, but maybe go on the Storm website and see if you can find a 14 with similar numbers to the 15-pound ball you've got. Because obviously, if you end up with a 14-pound ball that has significantly weaker numbers than the 15-pound ball, you won't really know whether it's better or worse for you, because the reaction will be different, and you don't know whether that's because of the weight block or just because of how you're throwing it. So try and find one where the numbers are pretty similar, and then go from there. But yeah, I mean, everybody I've spoken to has moved down to 14 pounds because they felt like they needed to from a health standpoint, has really, really liked it. They felt like they didn't give up too many hits, and they just threw more good shots. So good luck. Let me know how it goes. Bob, yeah, the Magic Gem's never been one I've really fallen in love with, to be honest. I think the thing is I think it's too close to the gem. So I just never end up needing it, because I just have the gem there that I don't use very often, but I just have it there. Like, I don't know. Once they released like the Absolute Power, the Absolute was one of my favorite balls. So having the same core but with a stronger cover was just like a no-brainer for me. LFG bowling. What balls are you trying if you had to bowl a burn squad on a team event in an AMF house on a house shot? Ion Pro would probably be one that I would think about, because I know that the front part of the lane, if I'm in an older AMF house, I know the front part of the lane is going to be a bit tricky to get it through. On the house shot, I know that the lanes are going to be fairly cliffed. So for me, going to something like, for me personally, I'm going to be left. So using something like a lightning blackout, I feel like might end up exasperating the difference between the dry and the wet, and making it so like if I miss left, it's 2-pin. If I miss right, it's a 3-pin, and that's the last thing you want. So to me, Ion Pro fits that gap because it's kind of a smoother ball, but it's slightly, it's in the bottom half of my bag. So that would be a ball. That would be the first ball that I would try. I think that it's quite continuous. So once it hits the dry, it's not going to overreact. So I think that is that fits a good gap for me. Well, I'm glad that we've managed to work through that and figure it out. But yeah, thanks for being part of the show again. What is the replacement for the burner pearl? I mean, there isn't really a true replacement for the burner pearl right now. I mean, maybe drilling one of the hustles slightly stronger. Yeah, I mean, the hustle brie bry seems to be the pearl version right now. But yeah, the burner pearl was a pretty useful ball. We don't have something that has that doesn't really fit that gap right now. For me, the hustles are a little cleaner. So if you drilled it a little stronger, that might fit that gap. Robert, can you please explain to me what the purpose is of drilling a stronger ball weak? Why wouldn't you just buy a weaker ball? I have always struggled to understand this. Well, for me, the strong balls, I'm trying to control the flare. I'm not really trying to make them weak. I'm trying to control the flare, and the stronger balls have more cover. So I just don't want. I want the strong reaction. Like for me, I would probably get the same amount of flare out of a 5.5 inch pin that a guy who bowls league who doesn't have a high rev rate would get out of a 4.5 inch pin. So I'm still getting quite a strong reaction. I'm just trying to make it so it doesn't like flare the whole ball. By drilling it weaker, what you're really helping yourself with is you're helping it get through the front part of the lane. But by having the stronger cover, when the oil gets down the lane, you've still got something that's going to give you that recovery. If you just use the weaker ball, with a whatever you would call it, a stronger layout, it's just not going to have as much pop down the lane because once the oil gets down there, the weaker covers just aren't going to get through that oil down the lane. So that's kind of like I like the motion of the stronger ball with the weaker layout. I think that they're more predictable. Whereas if you use the weaker balls, I think that they're more likely to read the dry and the oil in a way that I don't necessarily want them to. Summit Peak is just it's one of those balls that always looks good on practice day, but it never seems to look good when the lights come on. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Summit Peak's just been a strange one for me. I want to really like it, but I just don't really have a fit for it. You know what I mean? 2 reality checks. Okay. Ion Pro, Idle, IQ, Arctic Vibe, UC3, Pitch Black Spare Ball. Do you see any holes? The only hole that I would say is that maybe having something stronger than the reality check. But if you never run into an issue of the reality check not being strong enough, then I wouldn't worry about it. I would imagine that your pin-up reality check flares an absolute ton more than your pin down one. A 5.5 inch pin down one that's not going to flare very much at all, and a 4 inch pin up one's going to flare miles. So, yeah. What would be close to the reality check? There really isn't a ball that's super close to the reality check right now, to be honest. I would guess that the closest one would be either a coil or a power. But yeah, they're still not really the same. But probably the DNA coil. Hey Gavin, I have a phase 5 high road pearl and optimum idle. Any clear gaps? No. I mean, depending on your ball speed, if you find your optimum idle isn't strong enough, I would think a ball above the optimum idle for most people. That could be like a gem or a harsh reality or something like that. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for all of the questions, all the super chats. Yeah. Do we have any more for any more? I am going to go into the garage and start drilling some balls. Got to get this Arsenal taken care of for the Lucy. And I am actually going up to Plano this weekend. They're running a Masters tournament, so that should be a bit of fun. Les Johnson's still leading after 6, 40 ahead of JJ, Rakowski, Leclerc, and Mika. So no change in the top 5. Barnes is down to 18th, unfortunately. He's 160 off the show. So still plenty of time. Kind of got to have a good finish here, though. So, but we couldn't do this show without you guys, and we definitely couldn't do it without the guys who support us. So thank you to Storm, Rotogrip, 900 Global, Coolwick, Bowlers Mart, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Platinum Ford, Lightning Strikes. Thank you very, very much. You guys are awesome. Thanks again. And thanks for you guys watching. Damn it. Tuesday, we are going to do it's like a charity show, I guess, for the Lucy. We're going to present Donna with a check. So we're going to have a giveaway. We're going to have like the usual thing, the ball drawing. We're going to have some shirts. I might try and get a tournament shirt from Donna. So we're going to have a bunch of things. We might set, I'm going to try and set up Venmo. So anybody who donates, we will do the thing with the random number generator. So let me know in the comments who would you like to see us get on the show. We will try and get a few different players to come on Tuesday. So if you have any ideas of players you'd like to see pop in and say hello, let us know. And yeah, hopefully we can get a decent check to give Donna at the weekend. And thanks again for watching. I will see you guys soon. Take care. Have a nice weekend. If you're bowling, bowl great. If not, get on that grill. Take it easy. Bye now.